job as teachers, it is very important for us to unravel the different implications of literature in real-life situations. It is given then that we should also know how to teach the different literary theories, criticisms, approaches, and frameworks to our future students and allow them to unpack and analyze certain texts on their own. So, for our performance-based assessment project, we, as a group, have decided to teach and assess learners' knowledge on feminist criticism. The Critical Podcast is a literary analysis of any short story or novel written by any contemporary Filipino author, subject for listening by the whole class. A podcast is a recorded audio discussion of a specified topic. In this case, the podcast is intended to discuss deeply and analytically the chosen Filipino text. In here, students are expected to apply appropriate literary theories and frameworks to ensure the clarity of the discussion. The theme and the concept behind the podcast will depend solely on the students' ability to creatively come up with unique ways to produce a good and insightful learning experience for everyone. The students will also have to think of a name for their podcast that they will explain very briefly before delving into the literary analysis. The length of the podcast will range from 10 to 20 minutes of meaningful discussion and debunking. The output will lose 1 point every time it extends for a minute. A transcribed version of the script will be submitted and the podcast will be uploaded on YouTube.
Upon completion of the subject, learners must be able to achieve such learning outcomes, and these learning outcomes are as follows. So first is to observe historical links or operations of patriarchy from the early times to the setting or context of the story. Second is to identify ways how texts are gendered and how problems with gender intersect with race, class, and or other cultural factors. Third is to explain and expound feminist criticism as an emerging literary theory. Fourth is to apply theories and frameworks that coincide with the feminist theory. Fifth is to critically pinpoint issues as they creatively employ frameworks and vocabularies in feminist lens. And lastly, learners are expected to create an in-depth analysis by showcasing different discussions and interpretations of the chosen text through a critical podcast centered on showcasing feminist Filipino short stories and novels. Overall, these learning outcomes are structured from general to specific until students are able to understand, apply, learn, and employ these concepts, not just in the subject matter itself, but also in real-life situations.
In this task, the student should be able to successfully demonstrate the following competencies: the capacity to discern and choose an appropriate topic, either short story or novel that can be an interesting subject for anyone. The skill to creatively come up with a unique concept for a podcast about Philippine literature. The ability to think critically and examine the chosen stories as well as recognize the literary theories and theories about being discussed. The adeptness to deliver to an effective podcast to the whole class, ensuring success.
Of course, giving an activity is never complete without a strong rubric. The final project will be judged according to the following criteria.
Originality. It means no sign of plagiarism, and the work is of the students alone.
Language, the use of correct words and grammar, and the scoring will be on the students' deliberation.
Organization is the arrangement or the flow of the whole presentation.
Creativity, the creativeness of the work.
Purpose is to be able to target the sole purpose of the work.
Introduction, the best and catchy introduction.
Content, it is graded based on the accuracy of the information.
Delivery, the deliberation or the memorization of the script.
Audio quality, choice of music or the background music and its appropriateness.
And finally, for the technical production, the transitions and environment of the presentation.
For this task, the students will be guided by the L. Tyson's discussion of feminist criticism on page 83 to 134 of the book Critical Theory Today, a user-friendly guide. But in a nutshell, feminist criticism is concerned with the ways in which literature and other cultural productions reinforce or undermine the economic, political, social, and psychological oppression of women. Since feminist criticism allows oppressions be visible in our eyes, our responsibility to do more for the welfare of our daughters, mothers, aunts, and every girl in the neighborhood is heightened. And we hope that as we read texts in the feminist lens, we find it in ourselves to reduce the adversities and discrimination women experience on the daily.